Hello, humans. Hello, humans. Artist with the Fro here, and welcome back to the show. We are here on this fine day, and we're going to be talking about witchcrafters. And we're really going to be dichotomizing, codifying, and categorizing our witchcrafters in their actual classes and seeing what are the best witchcrafter cards that you might want to run in your deck. Now, keep in mind, we are going to be talking about cards that do exist, cards that are coming out, and then cards that possibly could potentially have some sort of effect maybe in the future that, we might want to use that might help us out in the decks that we're trying to make. However, before we do any of that, please like, comment, and subscribe. Try to help us get our goal of 1,000 subscribers. We're going to try to go for that goal before my birthday of next year. So with that being said, thank you guys all for subscribing. Thank you all for staying in the know, and let's jump on in. So we got about 22 cards here, and we're going to discuss each of the cards by also talking about what are the different ranks and levels, or rather, what are the different classes that we're going to put them in. Now, normally, you have your A, B, C, D, F tier, whatever, but instead, we're going to try to make the tier list as best as possible to kind of display the playability and more so the viability of these cards in the actual game. So from the top, we have our must-haves, then we have at least two, followed by one-ofs, side deck, and then don't even bother. We're not even going to try to put those in the deck. So let's jump on in. We're going to go with our first card, which is Witchcrafter Adele. Witchcrafter Adele, I'm going to put in the one-ofs, 5-star spellcaster, and she basically allows you to special summon a Witchcrafter from your hand instead of having the other effect to special summon from the deck like her lower level counterparts. Now, that aside, her real power comes from her second effect, the ability to tribute herself and then special summon any spellcaster from your graveyard. Even in a Magistus deck or even an Invoke deck or let's say a Charmer deck, this might be a card that is more useful because it sees more viability outside of your standard Witchcrafter cards. There's also a few newer cards that go well with her where it's useful to have, but you don't want to have too many of her, right? You never want to draw into something like this. So by that result, we're going to leave her as a one-of. She could go into the side deck, but for right now, she's going to stay as a one-of. Moving into our next card, Witchcrafter Collaboration, we're going to put this in the don't even bother. Now, you might be saying, well, artists, why are we putting this in a don't even bother? It's a collaboration of different cards. Isn't the Witchcrafter and Demion and Invoked and Charmer and Prophecy and Spellbook and Magistus and all these cards like collaborating together in this grand spellbook war or magical war or whatever? Yes, but that's not what's happening here. This card allows you to choose a Witchcrafter that can attack twice, and when it attacks, it does the similar Ancient Gear effect where you can't activate spells or traps. However, you're not really going to use this. The fact that this isn't a quick play spell means that this is from a bygone era where Yu-Gi-Oh was old and monsters were set face down with one face down spell or trap and turns were ended with a Sakuretsu armor or a magic cylinder. Those days are over. Those days are clearly over. We are summoning 5 or 6 monsters a turn, and it doesn't matter if you have a card that can attack twice because most monsters already have that effect. So I'm not even going to kind of go deeper than that. That's where that card is. Don't even bother putting it in your Witchcrafter deck. However, the next card that you're going to want to run is Witchcrafter Creation. I'm going to put that at least 2-ofs. If you're running pure Witchcrafters, definitely run your 3-ofs. But this is a searcher. It's your basic reinforcement of the army, your basic Xian smoke signal. However, you can only activate one of these per turn, so it's actually not like smoke signal. It's a little bit worse. But that aside, it's a searcher. Lets you get any of the Witchcrafters, whether it's Madame Vere, whether it's Galama Woo Woo, whether it's Hain, Pittery, Pottery, Shemetta, Watery, all of them. Anyway, good searcher. Again, there's a lot of Witchcrafter cards. If there were more cards that counted as Witchcrafters, as another card that we're going to talk about later on, then maybe this card might be a little bit more viable. However, if you're running pure Witchcrafters, I'd say have it at least at 2. If you're running less than pure, like let's say less than half of your deck is Witchcrafters, you could get away with running 1, or you could just run none at all. So it's one of those really volatile cards where it's either at least 2 or it could be in the don't even bother, depending on your play style, right? Moving on to Jenny. Witchcrafter Jenny is a must-have, especially with the new cards that came out with the Magistus archetype. Witchcrafter Jenny has jumped up in stock, right? This is a card that you want to buy before it skyrockets in price. All right, let me stop. This is a card that you really want to have in your Witchcrafter deck, regardless of the play style, right? It works extremely well with 2 other Witchcrafter cards in general. And that aside, it's also a really good card to have when you're thinking about, like, you know, I need a spellcaster to go into Artemis, or I need, you know, a 1-star to summon out something else like Almirage or whatever, or even Relinquish Anima, right? Witchcrafter Jenny has jumped up in her popularity as well in the OCG story. She's one of the main counterparts with Vare, but I will say that she is a must-have regardless in any of the decks, even if you're only running her at 1. Our first side deck card is going to be Witchcrafter by Street. Now, you guys might be saying, well, why didn't you put Collaboration in the side deck? Why would you put by Street there? I'm going to be very honest with you folks. This card is here mainly because of its lore implications. It does have some playability because it does prevent your Witchcrafter cards from being destroyed by battle or spell or trap or card effects. And it also has a really cool effect where at the end of the turn, it'll bring itself back on the field as opposed to bringing itself back in your hand. So it does have a little bit more viability in terms of like pure Witchcrafter. However, this card, and I always thought, I'll be honest with you folks, I always thought that, like, you know, Grand Spellbook of the Magical Circle or other cards were like, all right, now we're kind of like piecing the cards together. This card, tied together with one of the OCG stories, really kind of brings everything together. If you look really closely at the art of this card, you're not only going to see an Endymion signal, but you're also going to see the spellbook, or rather the prophecy, whatever the magical symbol is there, right? Within the artwork, right? So this is a card that came out years ago, and this already confirmed, this along with another card already confirmed that the Witchcrafters were in the same world. It's so crazy that like we had this card here the entire time, and it's almost like now people are kind of realizing By Street and another card really just talk about like the fact that no, these cards are all together in the same world, and we're finally seeing all of them come together in this big thing. So for that reason alone, I'll put it in the side deck. Other than that, you're probably not going to use it. It's going to be another collaboration card. Kind of has the same effect as Creation, where it's like if you have more than half of your deck being Witchcrafters, you definitely want to run it. But if not, then don't even bother. Moving on to another one of our one-ofs, we're going to have Witchcrafter Golem Awuwu. So Golem Awuwu is the created, I don't know what you would call it, the crafted version of Golem of Ninaruru, and it's actually created between the effects of Adele Hain and Witchcrafter Madame Vare, right? They all come together and they collaborate, right? They collaborate and create Witchcrafter Golem Awuwu. Great effect, great monster, right? Anytime one of your spellcasters is targeted, and this is any spellcaster, not just Witchcrafters, you can special summon her from your hand, and you can bounce one card on the field back to your opponent's hand or your opponent's extra deck. So it's a really good sort of like pseudo hand trap security card, security blanket type of card. It is very situational though, so don't get me wrong. Similar to Adele, if you're not running more than like half of the Witchcrafters, then you don't necessarily need it. There are much better hand trap cards to run in lieu of this card. And then you also have cards like the Iris Sword Soul, which is kind of like this, but some might argue a little bit better. It just depends on what type of playstyle you're really trying to run. So with that being said, Golem Awuwu is going to last in the one-of spot. Moving on to her non-professional version, we're going to put Hain in the side deck. Hain has one of the best effects in the fact that while she's on the field, your Witchcrafter monsters are unaffected by monster effects. She also has another ability where she can destroy one card on the field if you discard a spell card, which kind of relates back to her fusion, but we're not there yet. Hain is a great card. However, you're not running it again unless you're running mainly Witchcrafters. If you're not running mainly Witchcrafters, then you're not using her at all. You're going to use the actual fusion card, which is the much better version of her, because you can summon that with any spellcaster and any single Witchcrafter. Again, we're kind of not even at the halfway point here, but I just want to remind you guys, or rather, I want to remind you humans again to like, comment, and subscribe. Our goal here is to reach 1,000 subscribers. So we're going to try to do that. We're making some more long form videos. We have a bunch of shorts, as you guys can clearly see over here, or over here rather. We have a bunch of shorts, which are now scrolling through the video, that you should also check out that talk about lore as well. Now let's jump back in. Witchcrafter Holiday is going to go into the at least 2s or maybe 1-ofs, depending again on how well you're running your Witchcrafters. I feel like I should have put this at like 50% or more, you run it, 50% or less, you run 1. Right? So think about it like that. At least 2 is if you have 50% or more. At least 1 is if you have 50% or less. Right? So over under 50, you're going to run 2. Under it, you're running 1. It basically lets you special summon a Witchcrafter from your graveyard. There are many cards like Adele alone that let you do that on your own timing. So it's kind of like you're choosing between, do I want a monster or do I want a spell card? Plus, there's a bunch of other spell cards that you can use to just bring back your spellcasters. So it's in a weird spot. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's useless. However, it's very situational, and it will last in the 2 spot, depending on if you're running more of a pure version of Witchcrafters. Finally, another one of, it seems like all of the high-level monsters are going to be in that. And that's going to be our Madame Vere, a card that's really good, but you do not want to draw it. So this is the opposite of Galamaruru, where Galamaruru is great to draw and great to have in your hand. This card you kind of don't want to have in your hand because it's just like, well, damn, now I need to special summon it out, right? If you don't have it, then if you don't have it in your hand at all, it's a great card. Has the ability not only to make your Witchcrafters gain 1,000 attack and defense, but it also can negate your opponent's monster effects if you discard a certain number of spell cards. So think about it like that. It's a good card, great monster, really one of the only versions, rather one of the 2 versions of Vere that we have in this list. Be sure to check out the next video for the Magistus versions of her. But overall, it's a good card. Not really going to need more than 1 in your Witchcrafter deck. Finally, another card that we can add to the must-haves. I'm actually going to say if you're running Witchcrafter at all, you need to have this card at least at 2 or 3 of. Vere Magic, Lacrima of Light. Yes, it's technically a Magistus card, but the effect also says that this counts as a Witchcrafter card. So that allows it to just be almost abused by this archetype, especially with the fact that it's right next to Ginny. So if these 2 cards are in your graveyard, you can activate either of its effects after you've already used one of the original effects. So think about it like that. You almost get like a double use out of it. The first effect, if you have a Witchcrafter or Magistus, acts very similarly to Foolish Burial, sending any spellcaster or spell card from your deck to the graveyard. The second ability allows you to special summon any Witchcrafter or Magistus card from your deck, right? So that's where it really gets busted. So you use the ability, let's say you summon Ginny, activate her effect, special summon another Witchcrafter from your deck, then you use Ginny's second effect in the graveyard, banishing both that and Lacrima of Light, and then you get another special summon. So it's another kind of like crazy card, crazy combo that is really, really useful and comes really useful. It comes in hand a lot. Witchcrafter Masterpiece, we're gonna put in the don't even bother. I don't think that this card is useful. There are many other trap cards that are less situational than what you're going to need to use this card for. So case in point, this card basically says if you control a Witchcrafter, you can target 1 spell in either graveyard and add 1 card with the same name from your deck to your hand. If you're running multiples of Crossout or I don't know, there's not even like you can't even add Harpy's Feather Duster or anything like that. Like you're really going to be using it on a card that you have multiples of. And even if you're trying to add a certain spell card, it's just not worth setting and then activating and then using the other effects. There's only 2 Witchcrafter spell cards, and it's really weird that like this one is so bad and the other one is a little bit better, but it's not even worth the use of the actual card. So we're gonna just speed right past Witchcrafter Masterpiece, which is not a masterpiece. Moving on to Witchcrafter Patronus. This card is actually really good, but you're going to want to run it in your side deck. I would move it up to the 1-ofs, but this one's kind of going to be in the opposite effect, where it's like less than half, don't even run it. More than half, run at least one. All right, so it's kind of the opposite effect of the side deck cards. So basically what this card says is that once per turn you can target one of your spellcasters as banished, shuffle it in the deck, and if you do, you add a Witchcrafter spell from your deck to your hand, right? If this card's in your graveyard, you can banish it, and any number of your spell cards, your Witchcrafter spell cards, you can add them back to your hand. So really good, kind of works well with Jenny's effect, and it also works well with, actually, to be honest, I think Jenny's effect is the only thing that it works well with, because you're adding any of your banished spellcaster, or you're adding any of your banished Witchcrafter spells, and the only card that you're really going to be banishing spells with is going to be Jenny, so it will help you add some of the other cards. Interesting to note, I really hope that they change the artwork of the background here, because the spellcaster, or rather what we're seeing in the back, should have been Riliona. However, this card came out way before the lore even started, so we're not gonna kind of like blame them there, but I would like to see an updated version of this with Enba and maybe Riliona in the artwork. If this card, or rather if the Magistus get a anime like the Chronicles anime, I would hope to see this card get transformed into another version of itself. Finally, Witchcrafter Confusion Confession. I'm going to put it in the don't even bother. You know what? That's a lie. I'm going to put it in the side deck. Again, if you're running half, then you want to put one of it. If you're running less than half, then you don't want to put one of it. Fusion card lets you special summon one Fusion Witchcrafter from your extra deck. There are many other cards that you can use to fuse instead of this card. You have multiple other ways to summon Vice Madam, and it's not even like worth the use. Even if, I'll be very honest, even if you're running more than 50, or rather more than half of your deck having Witchcrafters, I'd still say it's not worth using over other cards that you possibly can have. So that's where I stand on it. Pittery and Pottery. Pittery and Pottery we're going to put into the side deck. I mean, realistically, again, if you're running a mainly Witchcrafter deck, you're going to want to run the both of them. But if not, don't even bother. That leads us down to the last 7 cards here. First one's going to be Draping. Draping we'll put a 1 of. Yeah, Draping we're going to put as a 1 of. Does let you bounce spells and traps if you are facing off against a control deck, whether it's Lab, whether it's, you know, Morganite, something that basically will stop you from using the effects that you need. It will allow you to bounce cards based on the number of Witchcrafter monsters you have. Other than the bounce effect, not really that good, so kind of play it as you will. Less than half, put it in your side deck. More than half, you want to run at least 1 of. Shemeta. Shemeta's a must-have. Wow. Looks like we have most of the cards in the side deck. It's so crazy that like half of these Witchcrafter cards we're not really going to be using until we get to like the last 3. Either way, Shemeta's a must-have. 1800 attack, special summons a Witchcrafter, lets you mill 1 Witchcrafter spell card to your graveyard. She's all around good. These 3 cards alone, Shemeta, Lacrima of Light, and Jenny, all work together to basically allow you to get another free special summon or another free mill if you so choose. So all in all, Shemeta's a really good card. I'd say you definitely need to have 1 or 2 of her in your deck. Moving on to the other card, Witchcrafter Scroll. It's another one of those half in, half out type cards, but it does tie the lore back into the actual thing. Again, look at the artwork, right? We have the Endymion power spell. We have the little spellbook symbol insignia thingamajiggy, whatever that is, right? And we have a whole bunch of Witchcrafter scrolls with Witchcrafter icons and emblems on them. Witchcrafter Unveiling. Now, Witchcrafter Unveiling is weird because it is another, I'd say it's a 1 of. It's a quick play spell card. It lets you special summon right out the gate. Plus, it also makes it so that your monsters, or either your opponent, can't negate any of your Witchcrafter spells or traps. Again, another very situational card, but it does lend itself to some useful plays if you have Witchcrafters in your hand that you just want to special summon. So I'd say you definitely want to run 1 of it. If you're running less than half Witchcrafters, put it in the side deck. Don't even worry about it. Moving on to the last 3 cards, here's what I'm going to do. Vice Madam, right up at the top. this card right up at the top, and then Seed I'm gonna put right up at the top as well. Right now, you guys may be saying, well, how do you know? How do you know that all three of these cards are gonna be at the top? Here's what we're gonna do. Vice Madam is the best Witchcrafter card ever. Right? There is no card in this list, new or old, that is better than this card. This card is insane in the fact that it has 3 different effects that you can activate, whether a spell card or a spellcaster monsters effect goes off, makes this card actually insane. The first effect reads, basically you can destroy a card. Second effect, you can get a Witchcrafter spell card from your graveyard, add it back to your hand. Third effect, you can special summon a Witchcrafter level, level 6 or lower, I think. I'm not reading it because I feel like I remember it, right? I think you get to special summon 1 level 6 or lower Witchcrafter from your hand or deck. So insane abilities, great attack, great defense, overall great card. One of the best, if not the best Witchcrafter spell card. Sorry, if not the best Witchcrafter card in general. Very, very good. Even if it's a fusion, you can fusion it with any Witchcrafter and any spellcaster monster. So overall, really good card. Moving on to the Maid. The Maid special summons itself anytime you activate a spell card. That alone just makes it top tier. None of these other Witchcrafters have that ability. You can activate Creation, search her, and then basically just special summon her. Like, this is insane. You can activate Spell Power Grasp, add her, then special summon her. This card is insane. This card should not have that main effect. I mean, you're not really going to use it for anything else other than that. She does search a Witchcrafter spell when she's special summoned, I believe. And she also gains like 2,300 attack, but you're never going to use that second effect, I think. I'm going to say you're never using that until we know what Regulus's effect is. I doubt you're ever going to use it. My guess, just off the top of my head, is that Regulus is going to let you add this card from your deck to your hand. But if it doesn't, then I could be wrong. What I really think Regulus does is he probably lets you add an Endymion card. Being an Endymion card makes it just easier to add her. And finally, Seed. Seed. There's no reason why they introduce a new card, or rather introduce a new character, and have her not be another good effect. What I would love, and I'm going to be very honest with you folks here, I would love for this card to be a Link monster and just have it have like a Link 1 ability where you can just special summon a Witchcrafter right when you summon it or something like that. I think Witchcrafters need something to help kind of like boost them a little bit further. And it shouldn't be another effect monster because they already got that with the Maid. Instead, they should get another extra deck monster. Whether Seed is going to be an Seed the Exceed, I think that would actually be really cool. Or whether Seed is going to be a Link monster. I think that her inclusion in the actual OCG stories means that potentially we're going to see her become an actual card. So here's to hoping, but I think that overall, like, whatever effect she does have, hopefully is going to be helpful enough to make the deck a little bit more viable. And that's my list. Let me know what you humans thought about what we put in our must-haves, at least 2 one-ofs, side deck, and the cards that we're not even going to bother using. Please make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe, and help us reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers. We're trying to reach that goal before the midway point of this year, or rather the midway point of next year. With that being said, make sure you check out the shorts as well. And as always, I've been the Artist with the Fro. That, my friends, is the show. And thank you all, as always, for watching.